Good morning again. Good morning. It's so nice to see you after the music festival and to all the, I believe, interesting things that you experience in Paris. Yeah, I hope it was beautiful and remarkable for you. Today, I could see that it was a bit hard to come here to the plenary because at 9:30 there were not that many people. But especially thank for those who were here because you did a great job. Thank you for that. Exactly. Um, I see some people were trying to hide themselves next to the wall, so I would really appreciate if you come closer, and because we also have some things to do in the morning, so it would be nice that we have more or less the rows. And yeah, so we will now start a bit with the energizer, because I see that the evening yesterday was quite hard and we need to move a bit and shake a bit to be able to listen and to work later. And yeah, so we can start. How we will do you, I think that yesterday you experienced a lot of music and you developed all your competencies in choreography and singing and so on. So now we will check it out, and we will use some music and also some movements. What kind of movements people do when they gather a lot, like in the stadium? Like what kind of movement you can see there? The wave. How we do the wave? Okay, I can use this chair. So, now you are sitting, you're almost, sleeping, and when there is a wave, you need to stand up and make a wave, right? So this is the way. And then you can also see it when it will be the turn of the next person. That's easy, right? Yeah, someone is practicing. I think it's also good for for stretching, early morning yoga practice, why not? And we also have a song for you. As you know, the next session will be very much with the theoretical input, and we will get to know some questions that maybe we have in our minds. So the song will be also connected to the questions. So every time when you hear the word why, you need to make you need to make a wave, and the wave will be starting with Samuel. So Samuel will be the one who will make a wave. Okay, let's practice just now without the music, our choreography, and let's see how it works. So as you know, the wave goes like this, right? In the stadium, it goes one direction to another. So we will start with Samuel. Tell me why. And it moves. Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful. No, it's too early, too early. Too early. It goes here. And yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. Goes. Lovely. We see people waking up. Great. Good. And. Okay. Yeah. Someone woke up just now. Yeah. Good morning. Wow. Thank you. So this was a trial, so we checked how it works, and now we will have a music. So every time when Samuel hear tell me why, he is a very important person now, he is checking up. Please be attentive with this. So he starts a new wave. So with him, we start the first wave, and all the next waves will be starting with Samuel. So check the Samuel, how he moves. And can we have music? Prepare. No. No, no, no. Tell me why. Why? No, no. Wait, wait, wait. It's that way. Tell me why. Come, come, come. Samuel. Second wave. Tell me why. Go, 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 go. Come. Okay. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. Amazing. I hope that you a little bit shake it, so we can start and actually find the answers for all our whys that we have. And now I pass floor to Max.
Good morning, everyone. You're not convinced. Yeah, so I'm here to tell you why. Good morning, everyone. Now, I think it links in, I mean, what we did this morning, thank you very much, Katja, links in very well with my presentation, because if there is I'm looking at areas where we need more work or more improvement and maybe more coordination in our work with the neighbors, and I want to think that dancing is probably an area where we could probably do it more. Coordinate. I mean, you've got great potential. It would do really well. It was good, but let's see how we can perform at the end of the event. Maybe we do another test and see if there is a little more coordination. So yes, I mean, I'm very happy, and by happy I mean devastated, that my presentation was introduced as a theoretical input. This is what everybody comes to an event for. Like, yes, could we have theoretical input? So what I will try to do is to make it as non-theoretical as I can. Sorry, so just in case we've not met, and I've got all those strong lights in my face, so I can't even tell how many of you I've met. But my name is Max. I'm a researcher and evaluator, and I've spent quite a bit of time looking at European youth programs in the neighborhood, including the various windows that keep opening and closing. And on this occasion, I'm here as a rapporteur for the event, but also in the run-up to this event, I was asked to look at the regional consultations that all three SALTOs that put this event together worked on. Not only in the run-up to this event, there were several processes, but just to check, how many of you were involved in the regional consultations, maybe? You don't have to jump and do a wave, but just maybe put a hand up. Anyone? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 for the first time. 5, 6, 7. 7 for the first time? Okay, 7. 7, so not that many of you. So maybe I'll just say a few words about the regional consultations. They were a series of activities run by each SALTO. They had a slightly different format. So SALTO EuroMed evaluated the work, its work and work of programs in the neighboring regions in general. It was a bigger study looking at youth programs and at volunteering. Then SALTO ECA and SALTO Western Balkans looked specifically at the needs of youth organizations and young people with regards to those programs in the run-up to this event. So it was a series of, well, we call them regional consultations, but eventually it was run at national level. So there were meetings, some of them in person, some of them online, where youth organizations and young people were asked about what works, what doesn't work for them within Erasmus Plus and the European Solidarity Corps, and to look at priority areas and what can or should be done going forward. Yeah, so we've reviewed all those documents with at least 3 sets, one from EuroMed, one from ECA, one from Western Balkans, and tried to extract some conclusions. And what I would like to do over the next 25 minutes or so is to tell you what are the takeaways across the different regions, and then also maybe to give a few examples of how it works at regional level and some things that were said at national level. And I think it would be great for all of us if we made it something else than, you know, death by PowerPoint and me just speaking for 30 minutes. So if from time to time I can stop and ask you for your insights and how this relates to your practice, I think it would be useful. And the screen is off, which is always a good start. Okay. Right. Good. So I wanted to give you some overall conclusions first. I mean, I just noted 4 points that come out of joint reading of all those 3 reports, and that might sound very general, but I think it's important to note that, first of all, there are a lot of overlaps and synergies across 3 regions, and this is why, well, what I'm going to offer you is 7 takeaways or 7 areas that you've all identified across regions, across countries. There are at least 7 points in those 3 reports that you really share and are passionate about. Then the fact that SALTO Resource Centres work is a very centerpiece of that, and most of comments across regions and across countries are very positive, if not about the actual work of the centers, but about the fact that, you know, you really need this kind of work. You need regional support. You need to be supported in your work in partner countries, whether you're in the Balkans, you're in Eastern Europe, you're in the Mediterranean region. You need a dedicated structure that will help you to be more involved in the program. What it also tells us that you need support, information, and capacity building. So you'll see those 3 terms across the board. And well, again, it's across the regions, it's across the programs. As you know, and this is not a place for a big discussion about that, we're now talking about Erasmus Plus and European Solidarity Corps institutionally in separation, but in terms of work and needs and approaches, we still, well, probably will forever share a lot in terms of non-formal approaches and the approach to active participation that was there for the EVS program that was part of Youth in Action and then Erasmus+. And then there is obviously a lot of differences between regions and within them. And I'm afraid in my presentation here I won't be able to cover all of that. You're more than welcome to read into the reports, and some of them have already been published, so if you want to see what's there, it's obviously all in the open. Now, looking at those specific conclusions and recommendations, those are the 7 areas that I would like us to look at today. So those are the 7 points or 7 areas where across all regions and across countries, let's say, you agreed. So you said, well, we need more recognition of youth work and volunteering. We need more youth participation and youth policy development. We need more stakeholder cooperation and coordination. We need more exchange of good practice. We need to work towards greater inclusion and diversity. We need to work on capacity of youth organizations, and we need more promotion and information of the program. So I hope you can recognize your own needs and your own work in any of those 7 points, because those are the 7 areas I'll be talking about. Now, this is not a closed list, because the consultation themselves, there are, a point in time, they are a build-up to this event, but they're also a process. So some of those needs have already evolved, and you will add on to this in this very kickoff meeting, and you will be building on that throughout I was saying that the national agency in SALTOS definitely will as part of this project and as part of this snack. Right. So I would like to offer a more detailed comments on each of those 7. I will explain them, and then I'll provide a few examples from the countries and the regions where we looked at. So the first point is the recognition and further development of youth work and volunteering. So, I think unsurprisingly, across all 3 regions, you see comments saying that, youth work is the essence of youth cooperation, and so is volunteering, and that there is a concern to a different degree across all countries that there is not enough value and recognition. Value is more universal, and recognition sometimes in more formal or legal sense, that they're not recognized enough and that they're not validated enough at national level. And just to offer a few comments, so from Western Balkans we heard that recognition of youth work and youth workers is missing. There is not enough common understanding and definition of youth work, and that's across all 4 countries in the region. As you might know, especially if you're in the Western Balkans, it's a region that evolves in size. Now we're talking about 4 countries, but before, I think those comments also applied to countries that are now program countries. but used to be part of Western Balkans. That recognition of non-formal education is also crucial, and it's not really there yet across the Western Balkans. That if you look at the legislation in each country in Western Balkans, there's not enough legal recognition of non-formal education, youth work, and volunteering. And this is something that the program should be looking at, either at the regional level to try to promote cooperation on that, or at national level supporting policy development efforts. And well, in ECA, we heard a similar comment here, but also more specifically that youth work is not perceived as an attractive career choice for young people, for graduates, and that more support is needed to make this an attractive career path. So it's not only a passion, it's not only something you're very happy to do in your free time, which is of course a great part of our work and should always stay. But there should be means of support and ways of making it a more attractive career choice. Then in EuroMed, there was a specific comment about low regard in some places for voluntary work and the nature of volunteering, and what results from this, that the work of youth organizations is not really appreciated or respected, because people think that volunteering is just some form of NGO business, and sending people here and there is not really seen as valuable contribution to the community, but just as a form of mobility. Okay, you're sending people here, they come there, good for them. But there is not a greater appreciation of the fact that volunteering benefits communities and places and organizations where volunteers work. Now, the second point is youth participation and youth policy development. I put them together because in most of the reports they were linked. I guess the work that you do, you very much understand that both youth participation exists in its own right, and it's part of just broader participation, democratic participation, for example, and then youth policy development is quite broad. But this was put together in the sense that most of the consultations were about the need to foster greater participation of young people in policy making. So whatever the policy, you wanted more inputs of young people, and that Erasmus Plus and European Solidarity Corps should also help with policy reform, and that policy reform should always be participatory in its nature. So if you're promoting good policy, it's great that it's, evidence-based and it's quality policy, but the essence of what youth cooperation does is that we let young people participate actively and contribute to those processes. And the comments across the three regions were about what we call sometimes the enabling environment. So, we can work on volunteering and youth work and so on, but it has to be in a broader scope of participation and policy reform. I mean, if you have a good and ambitious volunteering program, but the overall atmosphere and the environment for participation is not there, it's unlikely to work, or it's not going to work so well. So if you don't have enough democratic participation in your country, or at least recognition that participation is a good thing, that young people participating in all areas of social life is not there, then small programs and small interventions like some Erasmus Plus projects are not going to be as impactful. So the comments from Western Balkans were about youth work and youth participation, including development and support to youth networks and networks of youth workers are much needed, that there is a need for more dialogue between youth organizations and decision makers. So the trio that you see very often in European youth policy structures on a youth dialogue. You put together policymakers, you put together youth organizations and young people, and you work with them. The same from ECA, that youth policy reform, institutionalizing youth work and recognizing non-formal learning are very much needed. And in EuroMed, there was a broader issue of political empowerment and civic empowerment. So young people should be empowered to act as active citizens, to act as agents of change, and the program should be helping with that. Now, we got to the end of point 2, and we have 5 more. And the TV is going through its own little crisis here. Okay, it's back. Any comments? Does this resonate with your practice, or are those issues relevant? And maybe if you've got any examples of this. For example, how Erasmus helps with youth policy reform. Anybody here with an experience of how Erasmus activities helped with reforming or changing youth policy? Anyone at all? You don't need to dance, there's no need to do a wave for this, you can just talk. And you can do this. Yes, Federica, sorry, do we have a mic?
Not so much in the policy reforms. Thank you. Not so much in the policy reforms, but I come back about the slide before about the recognition of youth work.
Yeah.
That to me resonated a lot. Yesterday night we had a long discussion with some also colleagues about the importance of focusing on recognition of youth work. I work more in Mashrek areas, but to us this is really the basis of what we want to do or what we are aiming to do, because without having a youth work that is recognized and valued, as you said, then it's also difficult to move on also to the program, it is difficult to have volunteers or to be recognized on the youth work. And out of this, one thing that has been done that was very successful was this long strategy that SALTO's EuroMed with the German National Agency brought, was this long-term strategy, Recognize It. And at the end of this, there was a very nice research made by Araf about what is the needs of recognition in the areas. And one was exactly what you said. Moreover, the layer of recognition was this political recognition of youth work that is connected with youth participation, youth policy development, in the sense that we need to arrive to the political recognition in a safer way, where everybody could express what they think, but without putting the field or the young people in condition of to be fragile or in danger. So this for me is really, for me at least, linked to my values. And then the support on policy reform for me is at the moment in which I do in the organization a bit more far away in the country, more in my country in Italy is a lot. But what we do in the cooperation, I think we are really working on this recognition and value-based.
Great. Thank you very much. Any other comments on that? Yes, we have Behruz, and sorry, I don't know your name, but okay. Starting from. Khayala. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning. It's from Paris. Yes, with regard to the policy reform, I was just wondering or thinking that although probably Erasmus Plus does not have this direct impact on the policy reform in the neighborhood countries, but definitely it increases a lot of demand and among young people and among organizations which are participating in all these activities. And this is indirectly is going to have an impact in the region. Not last also because of the situation that just would like to underline that there is not only Erasmus Plus existing that is supporting young people, but also other programs in the region. And these other programs are very much connected in principle to youth work and recognition of young people, as well as also involvement of young people in policy reform and policy development and discussions. So, and this brings me also to the question in fact, if there is any idea from those who are involved in the Erasmus Plus to better connect to all these other programs that are happening, so that there is a better stakeholder cooperation in the framework of policy reforms, for example, also taking place. Yeah.
Thank you. We had a question here from Hayala.
There is, I would like to share some experience that we had related with policy reform in Azerbaijan. Ministry of Youth and Sport are conducting, cooperation with all youth organizations in order to put forward some strategies or state programs. There was Azerbaijan Youth State Program, which covered 2007 and 2021, which ended up last year. And in order to prolong it or renew it within the youth program of European Union, there was key experts are involved in order to prepare new strategy. And it was very recently this year, public consultation has been launched with all youth organizations and plus EU experts, involving them in order to inspire or to share the best practices of European Union countries, how they are formulating policy, and we are getting some, their success stories and making some integration or renewing this policy direction to develop our youth in Azerbaijan. So at the moment, this strategy is we are working on it, and it will be ready approximately till the end of this year with official approval. That's why I would like to thank all the EU experts that involved in that policy preparation and preparing the strategy for our youth. So it is one of the examples how we are cooperating with key EU youth experts and with our local organizations. Thank you.
Thank you, Hayala. Yes, sorry, I don't know your name, so if you can introduce yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, morning, Abdullah from Algeria. I just want to highlight some reporting which has been done with SALTO EuroMed. It's about the youth policy in MEDA countries. There have been some reporting, and I think that it's already great to start as a platform about youth policy in each country. Now, concerning the support for policy reforms or democratic life, etc., it's not that easy, but sometimes we take part in some of this consultation, but as far as I have seen, there are not really some concrete things done. Recently, like for example in Algeria, 2 days ago, they have established the Parliament of Youth, and it's the first time in Algeria, and we've got one member from our NGO there, but hopefully we can bring, for example, value. And this youngster, who is a member of our NGO, has taken part already in many events organized by SALTO. So that's just my contribution.
Thank you, Abdullah.
Welcome.
Okay, so we'll have more space for comments maybe later, because I guess a lot of the issues will overlap. And just building on what Bahruz said, he mentioned stakeholder cooperation is actually the third point. So just to recap, the first point, our area was quite specific to what we do, which was youth work and volunteering. Now we need more recognition, we need more support for that. Now if we maybe zoom out a little bit, you say, well, it has to be within, or it should be within the scope of youth policy reform or youth policy in general. So, youth policy is not all about youth work, and not only that, but it's good that we work in an environment that recognizes that. Now, if look at the third step, it's zooming out even further. If you look at stakeholder cooperation and coordination, and they are all buzzwords, yeah? I mean, stakeholder here, stakeholder there, and cooperation. Who doesn't want that? But if you just remember what was, I think, brought up by Lama here yesterday, the issue of visa applications and visa processes. I mean, this is just a little insight into that, but I guess you would know, and you would have examples in your countries. We know Erasmus Plus Youth is great, and many youth organizations know this. If you step outside the world of youth, fewer people know that, and comes with that the lack of recognition for what we do and the importance of this work. So if you go to your proverbial consulate or embassy, they'll be like, okay, Erasmus Plus is great, it's for university students, we're happy to support them. But if you're talking about sending young people to a youth exchange, they might not know what's going on. And I guess every single country would have such examples. So that, we need to work with other stakeholders, not only from the youth field, to make sure that there is recognition and that there is, smooth operations of those programs. And I guess you will all have endless stories with, for example, volunteer paperwork, let's say, at national level. So, what visa does a volunteer need here or there? I mean, are they employed? Are they volunteer? There are some countries where you have a specialist volunteer visa, somewhere you don't. You're lucky if you have a specialist scheme for volunteers, but in many countries you don't, and many countries authorities would not really recognize what is the nature of work of, but especially if you look at the new brand, Erasmus, they would even understand, but now if you bring European Solidarity Corps to them, they don't know what to make of it. So again, the big point is that we need to work with other stakeholders, not only from the youth field. And it's not all about, getting support and recognition, but it's also making sure that we can do our job. If you are active in the youth field and you want to do something elsewhere, obviously you don't live in the youth sector. You also have to make sure that your volunteers can go out and do something. It's about health and safety. It's about volunteer visas. It's about working with schools or other institutions. So we need this cooperation both within the EU and outside to ensure the program's success. Just looking at a few examples here about stakeholder cooperation, some issues that were brought up by colleagues in EuroMed reporting were that this need to cooperate and formalize local networks of organizations working on quality labels and facilitates exchange of information there, that more work with the pools of local experts and SALTOs and other institutions, so they recognize the expertise within the program and the fact that you have many experts within the SALTO world and SALTO networks that can be used in other sectors. And that in the Western Balkans, there was another comment about better coordination among stakeholders, national and international. So if you look back to national youth policy, it's great that we do all these things, and we have, I don't know, an inclusion and diversity policy with Erasmus+, but is it also functioning at national level? Can there things that we can learn from national networks or national policies, and can they learn from us, so to speak? So, you know, can experiences of Erasmus Plus, inclusion and diversity inform that, or quality assurance? There's a lot of quality assurance documentation and support in Erasmus Plus. Could this be used in national policy? So to make sure that those different levels of stakeholders talk to each other, and in ECA there was also a comment about the need for more coordinator meetings, and that would be thematic and also regional. And across all three regions there were comments about the need to work with the other regions, so hence this event here, that you need to also zoom out and look at broader neighborhood, not only at your neighborhood, so to speak, but broader European neighborhood, and see what you can learn from each other. And here comes the fourth point, which is exchange of good practice. I mean, I'm not going to go into much detail because it's pretty self-explanatory, that there is a need for exchange of good practice in the field of youth and youth policy, that is, you know, youth work, non-formal learning, volunteering, other fields. Universal agreement that, you know, the formats that we use, and they were named yesterday, whether it's, you know, about partnership building or tool fairs or virtual exchanges of some sort, exchange of experiences is much needed. And there were very concrete requests, like colleagues from ECA were saying, we need to know what a youth worker should do to attract young people to their youth center. And there's a lot of good practice, and that's not only in the EU. So here, again, we look at the lens of, you know, partnership cooperation in general. They can be great expertise in your region, in your country even, but that Erasmus as a mobility scheme, and European Solidarity Corps as well, is a great place for exchange of good practice, and that it should be done to the extent possible. Now moving on to the next point, which we also partly covered, inclusion and diversity, and we had a discussion about this in the team, because there, you can see that there is a certain tension in the comments, because in the reports a lot is being said about diversity is great, it's an asset. Okay, when we look at the diversity of young people who we are working with, the fact that they all come from different backgrounds, educational, professional, personal, ethnic, religious, you know, the whole range of diversity aspects, later diversity factors, it's good, but it's also the fact that we don't maybe do enough of that, or that maybe we could try a bit harder to be more inclusive. Yeah, so I mean, wherever you look, whether it's youth exchanges or training courses, I think there's scope to improve this. And in ECA, we had very concrete comments here. So, for example, I mean, in the Caucasus, they need to make programs more inclusive of refugees and IDPs. So to make sure that we work with internally displaced persons and with refugees, and go out to those groups. We include young people with disabilities, and that there is more general regional outreach. So again, if you look at especially smaller countries, there is a lot of concentration of Erasmus activity in bigger cities or in capitals, and not so much outreach to smaller cities. And I think the notion of rural youth work is still very much sort of in development, and well, it was quite a while ago, but we looked at the Eastern Partnership Youth Window with Becruz a few years ago in the evaluation, and there was one of the ambitions of the window back then was to work with young people from deprived urban areas and from rural areas, and that was the bit that the window really struggled with, for many reasons, including lack of support for youth organizations and lack of the right kind of networks. But again, there's a lot of recognition that diversity is great, but there's also a big recommendation out there saying we should work a little harder on making sure that we reach out beyond what some of you call here a narrow elite that benefits from Erasmus programs. And I don't know the current numbers, but in the Eastern Partnership Youth Window, there was a very telling statistic. If you look at the number of mobilities, let's say out of every 10,000 mobilities, you would only have, let's say, 4,000 young people. So kind of, it's, you know, 10,000 mobilities doesn't mean 10,000 young people participate. It's often the same people who benefit. And sometimes for the right reasons. If you're working for a youth organization or a public body, that's how it works. But when it comes to other formats such as youth exchanges, that there was not enough opportunity for new young people joining in. And yeah, we had comments here both in EuroMed and also here in France to work with young people who are not in education, employment or training, to work with needs, and to also link our activities with what is needed locally. So to link it with urban or local policies. So if the local need is to work with a particular minority group or a particular group that's disadvantaged, link to that and build on those local needs. Now I have 2 more points to go through, so I'm just going to go through them and then we open the floor for more questions if we have them and if the TV doesn't die on me. Right, okay. Capacity building for youth organizations, I think that's something that is quite familiar to you. So the need to build more capacity and to support organizations to do their jobs, and that links back to the previous points. If you want to do inclusion and diversity, you need to have the capacity, you need to have the support to do it. If you want to reach out to young people from a particular disadvantaged group, you need to know how to do it, you need to have the resources to do this. So a big chunk of your comments were, I mean, across Western Balkans, capacity building, mentoring of youth workers and youth organizations, supporting networks of youth organizations, supporting them on project development, partnership finding, youth policy and advocacy. So giving those tools to youth organizations, sort of decentralizing the program and making sure that they can take the work further. The same thing in ECA, more capacity building and training opportunities for youth workers. And the same in EuroMed, increasing the supply of training courses in partner countries and with way more numbers, so more places available, more frequency of those events, working with the volunteering, sending and host organizations as well to develop their capacity. Just moving on to the last point, which is pretty general and generic, program promotion and information. So it's a little bit like with the inclusion and diversity. A lot of we said, yeah, there is a lot of information, and SALTO would be one such place. And actually, moving in the broader world of European youth programs, SALTO is quite a reference point, and SALTO portal is universally recognized as a good sort of single gateway. If you want to know about organizations, programs, tools, calendars of events, many other programs are looking up to this, saying we should do something similar. We need a tool that would allow everybody kind of a single point of entry, and whether they're looking for partners, they're looking for funding, they're looking for events, they're looking for tools that they should be able to access. But on the other hand, there's a lot of commentary across all 3 regions that there is insufficient information available, especially to groups that are disadvantaged or that are not included in the program. So information available in all languages, all formats. It is sensitive to gender, to age, to whatever those groups might need. And then specific comments under each region. So in Western Balkans, a few countries commented saying Erasmus Plus and European Solidarity Corps are not visible and not recognized enough across the region. And that then has an effect on, for example, inclusion and diversity or wider participation. Because if young people don't know about this, they're not going to participate. We're going to have a smaller number of people, and it's also then difficult to reach wider impact. So there's a suggestion to have more regional meetings, more seminars, more study visits, provide spaces to discuss the key concepts and to share them, to provide concrete information to youth and interested groups, and to organize information sessions also outside what we would define as the youth sector. So not only non-formal education, but working with schools, working with education providers, and spreading information in that way. And the same is in Eastern Europe and the Caucasus. Dissemination of information, promotion are vital and needed in all countries, and that there is a need for dedicated information campaigns and sort of active assistance. So not only dispersing information, but then helping young people. So not telling them, okay, did you have an opportunity, go out and read about this, but sometimes, yeah, mentoring or tutoring or just sort of guiding them by hand if needed to make sure that they can actively use those opportunities. They don't only know there is an Erasmus Plus program, but they can actually take a step towards participating in it. Just on those maybe 3 last points. So then we looked at stakeholder cooperation, inclusion and diversity, and information. Are there any comments or examples? Yeah, Emma, do we have a mic that's closer? Yeah, cool.
Hello, thank you, Max, for the presentation. I would like to share a story, a need, and a small good practice regarding this. The first one related to stakeholders. I don't know how to frame the story that I will share with you, but it worked. In 2012, we started a very interesting cooperation with a Finnish organization where we used to send volunteers every year. And there is no embassy of Finland in Lebanon. The visas are processed through the embassy of Austria. And after the 2nd year, we received a phone call from a nice lady in the Austrian embassy telling us, oh, okay, who are you? And why are you sending us all these visa applications to Finland? So we told her, okay, can we go visit you and explain to you what we're doing? And she said, of course. So we went there, we explained to them it was EVS. So what is EVS? Who are we? Who is our Finnish partner? And surprisingly, magically, after that, the visas went very smooth for the youth who were applying. And it was one challenge less for us. So I don't know, I know it's harder to do with other embassies because, for example, some embassies do not accept applications. They do that through service providers, and it's harder. But this is one good example that worked. The second one, I would like to highlight a point related to capacity building for youth organizations. I remember at some point, SALTO was working on quality in youth work or in cooperation when it comes to youth in action, like in youth exchanges or in mobility projects. And it was really important, and it would be important again if there would be a new series of quality in these kind of projects, because it's very important, I think, for partners. We know that we cannot apply, we can only be partners, but it's very important for us to know what is our role as partners. So we are not only signing mandates and adding to our portfolio of projects. There is a responsibility, and it all falls under the quality of youth work and how are we as organizations, when we commit to a project and we sign this mandate, it doesn't end there. So I would ask kindly, SALTO, where are you, SALTO people? Okay, please, if you do again a series of quality and exchange projects, because there are new organizations joining and we need to expand our networks, but carefully, so it would be good if we can do that. The last thing is related to, oh my God, I forgot the last point. A good practice. Yes. Young people knowing about these opportunities. There is one practice that we did in Lebanon, and it was quite good. We host a lot of Ask volunteers, and what we try to do is ask them to prepare info sessions that we do online, reaching all people, young people in Lebanon. And so far, it's been quite well, because we know that people from far areas that are not the city don't know about these opportunities and don't have anyone to tell them. So by doing it online, because now traveling is very expensive, I know Lebanon is small, but now with the crisis, so reaching them through online events has been really successful, and it's the Ask volunteers themselves who are preparing it. And sometimes we have someone sitting on their side translating to Arabic if needed. And it was a good practice, and we are still doing it, and it's doing good. So more young people are knowing, and we see that a lot of young people now are calling us, hey, we found this project, can you support us? From different rural areas, which is good, which is what is needed. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. So we have a question at the back. Sorry, don't know your name, so if you can also introduce yourself. Sorry.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Khadija. I'm from Morocco. I have two comments regarding point number 2 and the last point. So concerning youth participation and youth policy development, lately I have become more interested in meaningful youth participation, which is slightly bigger and broader than youth participation, because young people can sit in a table and provide recommendations, but they also deserve to know how these recommendations are implemented, or how are they used, and how they can contribute to actually their implementation, so they don't feel like they are ditched right after giving those recommendations. And concerning the 7th point about program promotion and information, that one touched my heart closely, because just in 2017, it was a big question to me how people traveled abroad. And whenever I asked, I come from the south of Morocco, and access to information was really hard. And still up to date, there are many, many young people who reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook asking me, how do you do it? How do you travel? Where do you find these opportunities? And from COVID, I learned that we can use digital tools a lot more better than just hosting in-person events where you can reach out to few people. So why not recruit, but just have young people in specific countries, especially where access to information is not democratized enough, in order to promote these opportunities. And I don't think that will require many resources. It's a matter of providing credible information, and also giving the tools how we can actually promote this information. And young people are very creative in finding their own ways to give more visibility to the program with minimal resources. Thank you.
Thanks, Khadija. I think your colleague just next to you The other side, yep. Okay. Oh, no, that's you. Hi.
Yes.
Okay.
Hello. I'll try to make it short. Rebounding on what Khadija was saying, first, I'm Nada Ghanem, so I'm from the regional program, communication program called EU Neighbours South, which is the regional communication program for the EU for the southern countries of the Mediterranean. And to say something really relevant, perhaps, about program promotion and information, because this is what we do. All our job consists in promoting EU-funded projects, Erasmus, etc. So we work a lot with influencers and goodwill ambassadors. Where's Georgi? He'd be here also to validate this. And we realized that peer-to-peer communication is the most efficient one. And I recommend, we have tested it and it proved to be very efficient. Having in this room some of the youngsters themselves with their, like Khadija was saying, their tools, their Insta, their TikTok, their Facebook, and they're very good communicators, and it goes wider than anyone or any communication plan can expect it to be. On the other hand, we also have a network that we're building now. It's called EUGIL Connectors. So it's a work in progress, but it also invites young connectors within their field, let's say alumni, people from Erasmus programs, to also talk to their peers in remote areas. And they have a massive outreach. So really having young people communicate on our behalf is what they do best, and what we really enjoy we enjoy working with them. So this is it, my 2 cents. Thank you.
No, it's great. Thank you. Thank you for those 2 cents. We have here a question from Ahmad. And just before we pass on the floor, Khadija, thank you very much for your intervention. Those 2 points, I think both are, a lot can be said about both. And this is also why you'll be spending a lot of today and tomorrow taking this further. This obviously, a lot of this is quite general. So we want to see how does this resonate with you and where do you want to take it. So you're already giving a great example, actually, both of you. Program promotion information is great, but peer approaches are where we want to take it. So I think there's already a lot to be said about the peer approaches being what we do anyway in the youth sector. So this is the approach we want to use also for communication. Also, if you look at practice, I've not done a youth exchange for a number of years now, but the practice was if you ask everybody who's learned about Erasmus Plus from an advert on TV or in a newspaper, the number would be very low. But who learned from it from Facebook? I know this is for us, the old people from Facebook now, but let's say back in the day when young people still use Facebook, they would say, I learned about it from Facebook, right? So, most people would have learned through social networks, and that is the approach. And you have other networks such as the EU ambassadors in the neighborhood regions, or you have the EU Erasmus Plus alumni network, you have the info points in every country. So this peer approach is better rather than a big comms campaign managed from Brussels and clips on TV. That's not the approach. So you have to decentralize it as much as you can. On meaningful youth participation, I'm glad you should say this, because I use the term a lot in my work. And sometimes I'm myself wondering, does anybody even think in that way? The EU now, especially DG INTPA, that works globally with youth, is promoting this idea of meaningful youth participation, especially about feedback. I'm sorry, Ahmad, I'll give you the floor in a minute. Yeah. That there should be a feedback loop. And then we talk about participation. I think in this room you would understand participation is not just being there or not listening in. It's about contribution that that will somehow come back to you and that you can get feedback on. And it's about impact and empowering young people to do this. So thank you for both of those comments. And now, Ahmad, sorry, I kept you waiting there, but the floor is yours.
No problem, sir. Mike is the power, so you have the power. I'm just waiting for you. Well, for those who don't know me, my name is Ahmad from National Erasmus Office in Jordan. Again, same like yesterday. Well, first of all, thank you very much, actually, for these recommendations. From my long experience with Erasmus Plus, I think these are highly needed in many other actions, I should say, and which means these can be very good potential projects, actually, to be submitted, to be funded by Erasmus Plus, especially if you show that you are in line with the recommendations and the study and all of this. Therefore, thanks a lot, I think. I confirm that. Now, regarding the issues faced in partner countries for visa and so on, I would like to advise you strongly to make yourself available as NGO or organization to, number one, the Erasmus Plus office in your country, if there is one, and there are in most of the countries. And number two, to the EU delegation also in your country. That will help a lot, as a matter of fact. In the past, we have, through the EU delegation, as Erasmus Plus office, worked and met with all the counselors, the people who are in charge of visas at the embassies, and we explained what Erasmus Plus is, and so on and so on. It helped a lot, actually, our students and staff members in Jordan, at least, to obtain their visas. And when the embassy faces a problem, they know whom to contact. So they contact us, actually, to explain what is it about. So I think that can help you significantly in this aspect. Another point, regarding your role as partner country organization in not only signing the mandate to be involved and so on, we highly recommend that you look thoroughly at the application that the European partner submits to be funded, and you prepare your part very thoroughly, or at least you understand your part and your role before signing the mandate. Not only that, you can even suggest projects that you need in the country to your European partner, and this can be, of course, considered by them so that you can jointly develop the proposal. That's my point. If it is possible by Erasmus Plus office to conduct workshops in this respect, and we have done it in the past a few times for the credit mobility action, and it raised the Jordanian participation in the credit mobility from something like 50-something to 60 to 93%, because the Jordanian organizations knew exactly what they should prepare, what the profile they shall prepare, and how they shall respond to the questions that are evaluated by the experts when the applications are evaluated. So it will help a lot if you can make a little bit more work in this aspect. Finally, I think, I like very much recommendation number 6, which is capacity building for youth, for organizations, especially now when with the capacity building for the youth action in some partner countries, we can be applicants as well. Therefore, if someone can take the lead to educate all other youth organizations in the country, or a number of countries actually, on their role and how they can be involved and so on, I think this can be highly considered as a good application to fund, because the multiplier factor for organizations and then individuals that can be involved will be much more. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks so much. Again, sorry for keep you waiting. Looking at the time, I mean, I'll give you the floor. Just if there are comments, please keep them short. If there are questions, now is also a good time to ask them. Sorry, we have two. Yeah, one at the front, the second row, and then the back.
Hi, I am Adina. I have actually 2 questions, but concerning like 3 topics from the list. But if you think they are maybe better for another session, it will be totally fine. So it's actually maybe not question to you, but maybe to other people in the room. I'm interested, is anyone have very good example to share in order to explain how actually the social media, especially like TikTok and Instagram, maybe in your countries help to reach more youth and inform them about mobility possibilities. That one, I would really like to hear that kind of examples, since we are living in this area of TikTok and social media. And second question is actually considering the stakeholder cooperation and coordination. I honestly, in my organization, as a contact point, I'm very struggling with communication and trying to reach the stakeholders. So I'm very interested, do you have some concrete, very good example actually how to reach the people on national level or lower level and somehow include them in promotion of the program, but also reaching that participation in creating new possibilities. So
Thank you, Adina. I mean, yeah, we'll pass the floor to the colleague, but I mean, that people, you know, they made themselves already aware. So if you talk to Nada or other people who are involved in communication and promotion, they are almost, you know, almost obliged to give you an answer. But there are also others with good practices, but they will be very happy to. So Nada is just there, and Georgi, when he's around, to talk about Eastern neighborhood situation. And I'm sure that colleagues from Western Balkans also have
yeah,
good
I
practice
just
to
can have a small comment. We also would have some slots in the program that you could use the way you want, so you can suggest a meeting for others there, like at the third day.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all the snapshots of what we were discussing during this consultation online, and thanks that you involved the national offices as well. I'm Svetlana, actually I'm Akhmat, but in Ukraine. We are also working a lot with several issues, and most focus was on higher education, but also we did for the youth actions. I would like to share a little bit example of the success story from higher education, which could be applicable also for the youth, because we launched several years ago already the cluster events, where we share and focus on one of the similar cluster of the problem or the challenge, which could be, we could find the solution together. For example, it was on the quality assurance and on the recognition. And maybe there would be the organizations in one region or the other who could apply for further projects together with the EU partners, and specifically with the EU partners, for the cooperation partnership in youth, in order to prepare the special tool, like online platform, with all practices for recognition, or to make an e-tool on recognition. It might then be much more easier when all the practices in recognition could be collected in one place, and show different examples, so in different sphere how it works in youth sector, for example. I'm sure that a lot of projects have been done, and we also promoted some about the recognition of non-formal education I'm talking about now, but then they are very much decentralized. But if you put it together and see how it might work on, on the tool, then it could be also a kind of good solution, I think.
Thanks a lot, Svetlana. Do we have any more questions or short comments? We good?
Yeah.
Okay, so again, those 7 points remain as a starting point and sort of discussion opener. You're here to take this further, and my colleagues will explain how to do it. If for some odd reason you're interested in research and evidence behind that, I'll be very happy to answer your questions, during any of the networking breaks. And especially if you're working on meaningful youth participation and you're interested in this area of work, then I'll be very happy to have a chat with you. And I think for now, I'll hand over to Katja.
I think we need to thank Max first. Yeah, actually, he gave a base for us to work during this day. So we will come back and discover step by step further and deeper all those priorities, recommendation that he gave us. So now I suggest you to work a bit more in the groups, and we had a chance to comment somehow individually, but I would like to go a bit deeper to these priority areas and have a chance to discuss them in the group. How we will do this? We need to form groups of 6-7 people that would be preferably quite diverse. So not only people from one region stays together and work together. So it would be nice if we have representatives of different countries in your group. So that's how we can, again, learn from each other and enrich each other. Let's form the groups that we could see who you are. And so for that, I think maybe stand up or sit together in one corner, that we could see how many groups we are, and later I will give you the task. 6-7 people.